Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me today, and with a long weekend now a thing of the past, it is back to work and back to our everyday pleasures and worries. Doing these videos made me so aware of how our worries actually differ from that of the so-called elite. When my roof leaks, I have to worry about where the money is going to come from to fix it. And usually it results in having to seek extra work or foregoing something else. Not so for the royals. When their roof leaks, they arrange a quick fundraiser, don't they? A posh dinner and a few checks later, and the problem is solved without them putting a hand into their own pocket. Some royals, like a handful of celebrities, often lose touch with the real world, although they are oblivious to it and think they can preach to us about how to live better, behave better, and be just like them, because their lives are so much better. Again, I'm going to draw a parallel between King Charles and his son Harry, because to a large extent, this kind of entitlement often becomes a generational thing. We know that, like Prince Philip before him, Charles was or is not only a conservationist, but he took it further and drove it harder, all the way into the climate change agenda. Now, right now, I'm not going to go into his fanciful ideas and behaviors, because the point of this video actually has nothing to do with any of this. I'm just going to concentrate on certain hypocrisies. Okay? Now, Charles presented himself as the defender of nature. Okay, a bit narcissistic, but that's what he said. Yet he was either ignoring the contrast between what he preached and what he practiced, or indeed he was again oblivious to it. But the facts are that at the beginning of 2009, he chartered a jet for a 10-day environmental tour of Chile, Brazil, and Ecuador. The cost was £700,000. 2 months later, he flew in a chartered Airbus A319 to Italy and Germany to promote climate change policies. The cost was a whopping £80,000. On his return, he used the royal train for a 5-day green tour to encourage young people to tread lightly on our planet at a cost of a whopping £90,000. Soon after, he used the royal train again to a Manchester conference, the same train pulled by a steam engine, which produced 90 times more carbon dioxide than a car. Later, to promote his campaign to protect the rainforest, Charles insisted on a chartered plane for a Far East tour, including a visit to Brunei, at a total cost of £694,000. Now, without going into the backstory, just before William and Catherine's wedding, Charles agreed to meet President Obama in Washington. As Charles's travel cost had escalated to almost $2 million, the Foreign Office refused to provide a private jet and insisted that he fly on British Airways. Furious, Charles asked his office treasurer to call Robert Higdon in America. Higdon was not surprised at all by the request. Higdon later said that it was quite normal for him to call and ask someone like Joe Albritton whether they could borrow his G5. And lo and behold, Albritton agreed that his Gulfstream would fly across the Atlantic to collect Charles, transport him to Washington, and then after returning him to Wiltshire and fly back empty to Texas. And that, my dear friends, is what I want to talk about. We'll talk about climate change and conservation hypocrisy some other day. Today, we are talking about Charles and now his son mixing with the rich and influential, not all of whom are as decent, upstanding citizens as Joe and Barbara Albritton. But as had been proven time and time again in the past by Charles, by Andrew, the benefits for them by far outweigh the type of person they accepted the money and favours from. And now these tendencies have ciphered down to the next generation, and we have Harry jumping from one private plane to the next. Yep, being who they are, Harry and Meghan's private jet habits are not all that private. We know they flew in Elton John's private plane, a Cessna Citation Sovereign. They also flew on Tyler Perry's Embraer Lineage 1000E. They flew by private jet from the United States to the United Kingdom for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and we don't know whether they actually chartered that particular Bombardier Global 6000 or whether it was yet another loan. More recently, we heard of them flying to a Katy Perry concert in Las Vegas on Michael Hurd's private jet, and then not too much later, they, Harry and Meghan, flew private and for free to Canada and Whistler, courtesy of an aviation company, and we don't know who actually paid the aviation company, most likely Invictus themselves. We don't know. The point of all of it is that these do-gooders who lend the royals their private jets or allow them to hitch a ride on one all think they are scoring brownie points with the royals and with world leaders and the hoi polloi. They think it legitimizes them and turn them from average rich celebrities into the elite class. However, on the other side of the divide, the royals don't care. They will sit next to a garbage collector at dinner if the garbage collector comes with a sizable check. They will fly on a trafficker's plane if it is for free. Just ask Andrew. They don't care what you and I may think. The Queen was different for most of her life, a lot more frugal, and Prince Philip was indeed very concerned with the reputation and the image of the royal family. But the Queen Mother is said to have loved a generous gift, otherwise known as a freebie. I guess, in a way, the game had always been the same, but with the internet and social media, it is now becoming far more obvious and far easier for the public to find out about these favors and what it actually meant and resulted in. At worst, something like citizenship and honors. At best, a seat at a royal luncheon or dinner. The biggest problem with this kind of behavior is that nobody, the royals included, have the gift of foresight. And just like his liaison with Epstein ruined Andrew's life, Harry is now walking on thin ice with his various liaisons with celebrities. We still don't know whether Harry had further contact with P. Diddy or Sean Coombs, whatever he's called, Puff Daddy, particularly since they've moved to the United States. But what we do know is that P. Diddy signed with WME in June 2021 when he launched his Excellence program, We also know that Ron Burkle of Soho House fame invested $100 million in P. Diddy's Sean John retail clothing brand in 2003. P. Diddy, or Sean Combs, which is his real name, is also fairly tight with Tyler Perry. I'm not even going to go into the two men's history and business dealings together, but it is indeed all over the internet and very easy to find. However, it is just another reason why it is hard to imagine that Harry and Meghan have not had any links, any liaisons, any talks, or even an accidental run-in with P. Diddy over the last, say, 3 to 4 years. I mean, it is possible. Hollywood, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, it's a big place with lots of people. But it would be a bit hard to swallow to think that they haven't run into each other or spoken to each other or spoken about each other. So yet again, there is the likelihood that a royal's greed is going to land him in trouble. Well, that is if it is not as yet cleaned up or swept under the rug for him. And from what I hear, there had been talks and instructions, or shall I say contingency plans are being formulated in England just in case the visa issue or these friendly liaisons blows up in Harry's face. But my dear friends, I'll tell you about that later. Until then, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.